Oh, looks like we're live. Fantastic. Hello to anyone who's already there. Everything looks a little bit different. So, yeah. Let me know if you're here. I can see there's like 7 people here to start with. Everything seems to have changed since last time I went live, which is probably reasonable because I went live last time about maybe half a year ago. Yeah, so pop a comment. Let me know that you're here. I'm just going to be burbling for a little bit because I want to make sure that everyone knows that the live has started. So yeah, if you're here, let me know, say hi, and I'm just going to do a bit of bobbing about on the internet to say, hey, we're live, come and talk. Let me know if you can't hear as well, and I'll see what I can do about that. The internet is a little bit funny here, and we haven't got our new internet yet, so we'll see how that goes. I've asked my mother not to use the internet. Ah, yes, I can see people saying hi, they're here. Okay, that's good. I'll just tuck the notice up on a couple of other places, and then we can have a little bit of a burble until we hit the hour. I feel like the older I get, the harder it is to use the technology, not because I'm getting older, but because it keeps changing. So that's what I'm going to blame it on anyway. We'll let Threads know that we're here, and that should be the last people that I have to let know that I'm here. Thanks, Maria, for posting it in the Discord. I actually forgot about the Discord, funnily enough. So yeah, thanks for that. Hi to Ellen and to B Foreman. I never know what to call you. I just go with whatever name you pop up on whichever particular format I'm on at the moment. So hi anyway. Hi Maria. Yes, Ellen, I'm feeling a bit better. I appear to be a little bit eye baggy today. Well, I don't just appear to be eye baggy. I am eye baggy today because my body has decided for the last couple of days that it's only going to either let me sleep from 3 a.m. onwards or it will wake me up at 5 a.m. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I don't approve and I would really like it to stop. I would prefer to have more sleep. I've got a couple of questions that people had put here before the live because some of them can't make it. So when we hit the hour, I'll start to get into those. But in the meantime, I don't know what snacks you guys have got, but I've got this and it's quite large. I'm not going to eat it all. I don't think I could eat it all. My mother got it for me. You know how after Easter, all the chocolate goes on special? Well, yeah, this was one of the ones that's on special. So now I have a giant squirrel. Yeah, it's a squirrel. I don't know why it's a squirrel for Easter, but I mean, it's chocolate and it's Ferrero Rocher. So this is my snack. I've also got tea. And by the way, just this mug, how beautiful is that? I have a real liking for William Morris designs. I really like his philosophy in life. Basically, his idea was that everybody, regardless of rich or poor, deserves to be able to have and enjoy beautiful things. And he was a huge part of making beautiful things that were accessible to everyone. And I really love that idea. But also, I love his designs. Like, seriously, how beautiful is that? But yeah, let me know what you're drinking. Let me know what you're eating. I'm insatiably curious. Mostly I just like to hear about food. My body hasn't been getting hungry properly lately. So I don't mind that for just a little while anyway. I could stand to lose just a little bit of weight. But it makes me upset because I also really enjoy eating. So should I smash him? Should I just bite his little tail off? I don't know. Oh, it smells good. So yeah, I'm all chocolate today. I do have a plate here because I was afraid of spilling it all over my beautiful desk. Smash it. Yes, I've torn his tail off now. It is. I figured I'd better not get too messy while I'm talking to you guys on here. I don't actually like listening to people eat, so I always assume other people don't like listening to people eat. So I will eat in small amounts. Popcorn. Sophia's eating popcorn popped in coconut oil, seasoned with nutritional yeast flakes and bubbly grapefruit water. That sounds really healthy, but it also sounds really interesting. I only like popcorn under certain circumstances. Like for some reason, I don't like it until one day I really crave it and then I want it. But my favorite way is with butter and with honey. And it's so good. I assume it's not particularly good for me, but since butter's not actually bad for you, just depends on how much you're eating, I just let myself have butter. Oh, and now as not a replacement for that because it's a bit heavy, you know the Korean rice cakes, the dok, like the ones that are about this long and fairly skinny? You can have those in a savory and spicy sauce, but you can also have the krudok, like the honey rice cakes, and you do them in the same way as I would do my popcorn. You fry it in butter, and then you just add honey to it. Oh my goodness, it is good. It is so good. So yeah, I don't know how we got from popcorn to that, but that's one of my favorite things at the moment. I can get the rice cakes from one of the Korean grocers that's in our area, and yeah, I just cook them up like that. It's so good. Sophia starts with the ears. Yeah, that's fair. Yes, yeah. Pen Griffin says, I still find it hilarious as chocolate squirrel for Easter. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Why is there a squirrel for Easter? Like, I can distantly understand why we actually, no, I don't understand why there's the bunny either. I can understand the egg. Even the churches use those sometimes. Like they say, oh, it's a symbol and a picture of God, of the Trinity, and so they use it like that, which still seems kind of odd to me, but chocolate at church is also fine. But I don't understand where we get to the bunny delivering eggs from there. And I definitely don't understand how we get to a squirrel. But I mean, if we're going to have a bunny delivering eggs, why not a squirrel? I mean, I don't know. Sophia says it tastes like movie theater popcorn, but healthy. Huh. That's so fun. I'll have to try that one day. I'm just a little bit scared of the yeast flakes things. That sounds very dangerous. Tess says, now I've got to try honey on popcorn. Yes, you definitely do. It's one of my favorite, best ways to have it. You just have to make sure that you put the honey on. So you would do melted butter, right? You melt the butter and you drizzle it over. And then you got to make sure that your honey is also melted. And that way the drizzle happens instead of the sticky. And also you don't really want to use your bare hands to eat it. But I mean, you can if you want. Don't let me tell you what to do. Yes, Beef Woman says everything's better with honey. Everything is better with honey. I don't even like honey by itself because it's just too sweet, apart from one specific kind that I get that's caramel flavor, like it's got a real caramel flavor to it. It's an Australian one. And but you put it in cooking or you put it with some other food stuff, my goodness, it's good. I love it so much. Korean food for Easter, says Sophia. That's a good way to do it. Yeah, a squirrel makes just as much sense as a bunny. So, why not squirrels? I'm going to very soon, since we're past the hour now, I'll start on some of the questions I got from people during the week who wouldn't be here at the live and who would get those, or who would listen to those later and get their answers later. So I will do that. Excuse me, just fixing myself. My camera is not sideways. It's back to front, and it's distracting me so much. Like, with the face blindness, my face looks different in the mirror every day. It confuses the heck out of me. It's why I keep the same hairstyle until I wash my hair in general. But when it's reversed, because I can keep the outline, like I can keep a general outline of my face in my head, but that's reversed and it's so confusing. And so I don't know what I'm doing. And so, yeah, whenever I look at myself, I just get off-put and confused. So the way that YouTube switches the camera, I really don't like that. Yeah, so as I was saying before, I got distracted by my shirt being crooked and tried to fix it in the wrong way. I'll try and answer those questions very, very soon. And also in the comments, if you have anything you want to discuss or that you want to ask about, just pop a question down there and I will get to it, like between other questions and whatever. Converse amongst yourself if you want to. I don't really mind. We have our snacks, we have our tea. Tess says that they've been told that nutritional yeast tastes like cheese. What kind of cheese though? Because there's so many different cheeses and they all have like really distinct tastes. I have my favorites. So if it tastes like some of my favorites, I would be up for that. If it tastes like brie or camembert, I would definitely not be up for that. I am very not fond of those ones. So Pen's asking what kind of tea. Pen Griffin is asking what kind of tea do I like drinking, and that they're partial to Earl Grey and fruit flavored teas. So I have a couple of like staple teas that I have. My first and foremost one is an Earl Grey, which is exactly what I'm drinking at the moment. It's a French Earl Grey, this one. It's by an Australian brand called T2. If you're ever in Australia as not an Australian and you see the shop T2, it's just like the letter T and then the number 2, go visit it. They have the most beautiful tea sets. They have the loveliest tea, and their French Earl Grey is my tea of choice for a daily tea. I just absolutely love it. It's different depending on whether you, like, really noticeably different depending on whether you have it with milk or without milk, and both is just really good. But apart from that, they have a sticky date tea that is based on rooibos and is really, really nice. That's really good with a cheese and a fruit paste, like having it together with that, it pairs so well. And the other one that I would generally swap between would be a nice, robust Russian Caravan. Every now and then I'll swap it out for Darjeeling when I want something a little bit lighter. But in general, yeah, those are the ones I cycle between. And the French Earl Grey is pretty much always the tea of choice. Oh, and Go Go Goa. It's a chai mix. But it tastes really caramelly and it's wonderful with honey. Oh, we've got a hi from Paula. Hi, Paula. She says, if you ever use Zoom, there's a way to choose whether you want to reverse the mirror image or not. Yeah, I think there is on YouTube as well. My problem is that there probably is that, and I just don't know where it is. And I always forget about it until I'm sitting here staring at a reversed version of myself. And so I just never remember to try and toggle that or find out where it is. And yeah, that's on me, not on YouTube. Tess has no clue about whether the yeast is what it tastes like. The cheese, I assume that's the answer to that. Oh, Sophia says it's closer to cheddar. Oh, I like cheddar. I like a good cheddar. But then we'd have to know if that's an American cheddar or an Australian cheddar, because my goodness, they are different. The cheeses I've tasted in America are interesting. They're not what I like personally, but maybe I'm just really used to the Australian versions, because when I'm in Korea, it's really hard to find a nice cheese as well. B Foreman saying there was a discussion of Palomina staying in Korea with Zero, but now Zero's moving into Camelia's house. Camelia's pulling 2 rooms out of storage, but Zero has claimed one, and obviously, yes, YeoWoo's claiming the other. So where's Palomina going to stay? Are there more rooms in storage? Is she staying in Korea at all? Yes. So Palomina is definitely staying in Korea. As to whether she gets a room there or not, I think that's more up to her than up to the rest of them. I don't know. She's used to barracking with like a few other people, like with her particular group. But I'm not sure she's used to actual house barracks. So I don't know if she would want to stay in the house as well. So yeah, as to whether Zero wants that or not, at this stage, I'd say he's probably more inclined to want that. But he's also having a few reminders that although his wants can be expressed, that if they involve what someone else does, that someone else gets the last say about what they do and don't want to do. So we'll see how that goes. I'll obviously have to write a few shorts for the World Behind series, as well as the City Between series, because there are still little things. There's still little things from the City Between series that I really want to write about. Like, I have short story ideas, so many short story ideas that I want to keep doing, but also I really want to get on with the new series as well. So I don't know how long it will take until I get to those. Lydia says, hi Lydia. I don't know how to say your name properly, but I'm going to try it. Lydia Scherer. We talk behind the scenes as well. We're both authors. Lydia's got, she was in my newsletter last month. She's also got a whole bunch of books out that are urban fantasy as well. So yeah, I think there's bound to be one on special. If not, there's some in her newsletter, I think. So Scherer. Right. Okay. That makes it easier. Lydia Scherer. Anyway, check out her books as well. Oh, Chris says, hi from Alabama. Hi, Chris. I haven't been to Alabama. I've only been to a couple places in America, and that is not one of them. Have I been? Kendra's asking, have I been to the cheese theme park in Korea? I have not. I did not know there was a cheese theme park there, or did I? There's a lot of theme stuff in Korea that's just really fun and weird that I haven't gotten around to. If I'd known that, did I know there was that? It sounded vaguely familiar now that somebody said it. So, oh, Karen's saying that that their favorite tea is Madam Flavor Rooibos Mint Choc. I love the Madam Flavor teas. I don't know whereabouts you are, but we get them in. I can order them online and get them in Australia, and they have this glorious. What was it? It was the one that. It was one I really loved that they only had at Christmas, and it was a caramelly one that was also, I believe, rooibos based. And the sticky date tea that I get from T2 was my replacement for that, because they stopped listing that on their website for the Madam Flavor. So I'm really sad about that. But yeah, I don't know where else in the world you could get Madam Flavor teas, but I highly recommend them. They're great teas. Kendra says, just finished reading No Man Left Behind about 2 hours ago. Oh my goodness, you were just in time. Because if you don't already know, there's going to be a lot of spoilers during this live. So before I get too deep into answering questions or we discuss things too much, just, be aware. If you haven't finished the final book in the series, there will definitely be spoilers for the final book, for the entire series. So just, engage thoughtfully if you don't want to be spoiled. Oh, we've got a few people from Alabama. Alabama. When I was a kid, I always said Alabama because Aussie, and I've never been in America. At that point, I'd never been in America, but I'm pretty sure I hear Americans saying Alabama, like not pronouncing the B really hard. So excuse me for saying things wrong if I'm saying them wrong. Imshil cheese theme park. So it's Imshil. Ha. Well, I am hoping to go to Korea. I'm kind of hoping to go toward the end of the year, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I need to check out, I don't need to, but I really want to check out more of Busan. So I'm probably going to try and go there toward the end of the year, and I'm hoping to get a little bit of snow, which will be very interesting for me as an Australian who hasn't lived in a colder climate than what we get in Tasmania. And to see the snow here, usually you need to go up one of the mountains. So that should be interesting. Grace says they love a good peppermint tea with honey in it, or an oolong. I like oolong. Oolong doesn't like me. I'm either allergic to it or intolerant to it. I feel like it's like flowers. Okay, so flowers really stink to me. They've got a really nasty smell. There's only one flower that doesn't so far that I found, and that's Boronias. Oh, and sea holly that I've got in the back here. That doesn't smell bad to me either. But most of them stink, and oolong tastes like that smell, and it gets me all stuffy and hay fevery, and I just, it's lovely, but it just doesn't work for me. So We've got somebody with the screen name of I Make Nonsense, which I approve of because I also make much nonsense. I also speak a lot of nonsense. But their name is Andy. Maryland, USA. Favorite tea is black tea. Oh, black tea with blackcurrant? Oh, that sounds really nice. I've got a violet black tea that's got like violets in it. And it's too strong for me, but I like it every now and then, even though it gives me the like the hay fever coming out because it's so good. But if I had blackcurrant, I feel like I could get that same sort of really light floral or present floral touch without it actually being me being allergic to it. Andy says, I just finished No Man Left Behind today. Oh, good timing again. Oh, okay. So you read my books together with your mum. That's really lovely. I've got one of the people who comes on the Facebook page often talks about reading them to his wife, and I love that so much. I love it not just because you've got like different generations or husbands and wives reading together, which is just lovely for a start. Just for me, especially, it's an expression of love to be able to do that together, and I really like that there's people like you who do that sort of thing together. Yeah, I thought you were in Australia, Karen. So you bought it. You bought the Christmas tea for workmates. It's a good one. B Foreman says, just call it Bama. I should try that. Maria says, very basic with chamomile tea and honey. Chamomile's another one. I didn't know you could be allergic to chamomile. I'm allergic to chamomile. Makes me sick. Don't know why. So yeah, no chamomile tea for me, and no drinks with chamomile in it, which is how I discovered I'm allergic. So yay for me. Yeah, if I wasn't allergic to chamomile tea, maybe I would be able to get more sleep. Okay, I'm going to start answering some of these questions now. Yeah, so while I'm answering them, feel free to pop questions, whatever, in the chat, and I will get to them. I'll just be a little bit slower. And when I finish, answering questions, I will get to them. From Instagram, I love that this person's screen name on Instagram is Athelas. That makes me very happy, but also Autumnal Ink, otherwise known as. And they asked they said the City Between was written in first person from Pet's point of view, and Worlds Behind was written in third person from the point of view of Athelas and YeoWoo. One thing I noticed right from the start of Worlds Behind is how distinct its narrative voice is compared with City Between. From the vocabulary and the phrasing, for example, Athelas's whom versus Pet's Aussie vernacular, to what gets noticed or mentioned. How much of the style and the point of view stemmed from deliberate choices on your part as an author and editor, controlling the cosmetics and the theme of the story, and how much just flowed naturally from the characters' own voices? First of all, thank you very much, first for noticing and also for the lovely compliment. As you might have guessed, a lot of it is pure hard work, and I've I've worked really, really hard from when I first started writing to try and make my characters' voices distinct. And there does come a certain point when as you're writing, especially as you're immersed in the series itself and in the characters themselves, so long as you're not taking a break from it, there does come a point where some of that just flows. Like, you're writing the character, you're in the character, and so you're able to do that just more naturally because you've been doing it for so long. But it doesn't start out that way. When you start out, you have to pay particular attention. You have to do a whole editing pass just to get your characters' points of view, their speech, their thoughts, their actions, all aligning with what that character is. And it's a lot of work, first of all. And even after you've been writing for a long time, it doesn't stop being a thing that you have to be careful of. So it does get easier, and you do get better at it. And the more immersed you are, the easier it is. But you always have to pay a certain amount of attention to make sure that you're getting that right. And to this day, when I do my edits, I always do at least part of a full edit is focused on making sure that all the characters sound as they ought to sound, especially if I'm doing 2 points of view, like especially in Worlds Behind, so Pet was just a single point of view, right? So I didn't have to switch between points of view with the characters. I could just stay in Pet's point of view, and the only thing I had to do in terms of characterization was to make sure that the others, as Pet saw them, were different. But I didn't have to look from their point of view. I just had to address their language and their actions. So with Worlds Behind, I had the 2 points of view, and one of those was a Korean person. So for a start, I have to try and make sure that the different culture is represented as accurately as I possibly can represent it, since YeoWoo is someone from a different culture. And I tried my best, and I know that any Korean person reading it, there has to be things I've gotten wrong. There has to be unnatural things there that I've done, and that's unfortunately not something I can get away from because I'm not from the culture. So I've done to the best of my ability, and I try to listen when people tell me that, oh, this is not correct, or I try to get input before I publish, to try and make sure that's as accurate as possible. But part of that is different culture and different mindset and the way they experience life and express things. But also part of it is like just simple things such as when Athelas refers to the ongi, normally he talks about them as kimchi pots because that's the use he knows that they have mostly, even though they're not always used for that these days. Some of them are just decoration, some of them are for other fermented products, some of them are different altogether. But YeoWoo usually refers to them as ongi, like the Korean word for them. So just little things like that, I try to make sure that I do. When Athelas talks about YeoWoo or Peregrine, it's usually Miss YeoWoo, whereas Peregrine will refer to her as YeoWoo. So yeah, things like that are really easy to slip up on. So yeah, thank you for noticing that that is a thing that happened. That's a lovely compliment. It's really nice to know that people appreciate that and see that. And yes, it is a thing that you have to, yeah, that you always have to work on as a deliberate choice and as a deliberate part of the art form of writing. And yeah, part of it is you do get caught up in your characters' heads, and so you end up really doing a lot of it just naturally. So yeah. Paula says that they've heard a lot about that people are, oh, a lot of people are allergic. Okay, so it's not just me. That's good to know. I keep coming across things that I'm allergic to that people are like, nobody has allergies to this. And so I get, maybe I've got a bit of a complex about it. Often the same people are allergic to ragweed. That would make sense, yes. I don't think we call it ragweed in Australia. What do we call it in Australia? I can't remember. I don't think we call it ragweed, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to that. Lydia says, yeah, very allergic to ragweed and hate chamomile. So I thought I just hated chamomile because the taste just, it would get in my mouth and it would make me feel ill straight away. Turns out that no, that's not just a severe dislike to it. It literally just makes my body want to throw up. So it might just be that your body's like, I want to throw up now, not because it finds the taste disgusting, but because you're allergic to it. Who knows? We'd love allergy doctors around here. One of these days I've got to go to them and do like a full skin panel, but I kind of don't want to because I'm going to the doctor so much at the moment. Undersky Understar says, one of my favorite details of your writing is the distinct tone of all the characters. Thank you. I do try very hard to do that. Writing can be a very repetitive type of thing once you've written, like I've written like 25 books now. And so it can end up feeling repetitive. And I sometimes wonder, have I managed to make these people distinct enough? Because writing characters does fall into certain archetypes. And you can't escape that. It's just everything under the sun has been done before. There's nothing new. But you try and have a new perspective or a new spin on it. And a lot of the times I feel like I'm rehashing characters and some of them are very similar. And so it's nice to know that it doesn't necessarily come across that way, even if it does to me. Yeah, B Foreman says, once a character starts living in your head, it comes more naturally. That's right. It does come more naturally. usually after that, it's just a matter of trying to be consistent and work on that a little bit. And yeah, it gets a lot easier after a while. Grace says, that's how I found I was allergic to eggs. Oh, that's not a fun allergy to have. Like, there's certain ways I don't like eating eggs. Like, I don't like them hard boiled with the center all hard. I think that makes me feel ill. But they're in so many foods, and I like them like soft boiled so that they're dippy and I can dip my sourdough toast into them. And it's really good with kimchi. Like, one of my favorite things to have with kimchi, if I'm having kimchi with a meal, is egg. Like, the two of them together, oh my goodness, it's so good. I love it so much. That's what I was supposed to have for breakfast, and then I forgot to eat breakfast, so I'll have it for lunch. Lydia says, do you have a Pinterest board with pictures of all the places in the world behind series in Seoul? I know you do some stuff on Pinterest. Haven't heard you mention a board. I don't actually do anything on Pinterest. I do have a account there. If anything new has been popping up there, though, someone else must have gotten into my Pinterest account, because as much as I love it and it's really cool, I can't find a way to make it work for me. It's a little bit too chaotic in the way that doesn't work for me. I do a lot on Instagram mainly when it comes to picture stuff, and I do have a lot of those. But with the way my memory works, because I walk a lot and map things out in my head as I walk, a lot of my memories are involved with the physical act of walking, and so I usually just sort of revisit those in my head, and then I look at maps to check that the routes I'm putting in are correct, because yeah, a slip up every now and then, things being swept around is fine. That's a fun little Easter egg, but mostly I like to be pretty accurate with the places that I have. And then a lot of the time when I'm walking and mapping, especially when I was in Korea, I was taking pictures as I was walking of things I wanted to remember to put in certain places, like just really pretty highlights and pretty buildings. So I did that, and I've got those pictures, and I did refer to those for the specific things. When I put a few things in the Hyochang Park, I used to go to Hyochang Gongwon a lot when I was stuck in Korea during the pandemic. It was surrounded by nature. I loved it. It was just so beautiful there and peaceful. And so usually on Sundays, because I didn't have a church to go to very often, or because I wasn't quite sure of where to go, I would listen to the sermon at home, and then I would just come out for a walk to Hyochang Park. And yeah, it was just lovely. And the last time I was there, I went back because I wanted to put it in the books. So I went back deliberately, and there were just spiders everywhere, like these huge, beautiful green, orange, yellow spiders. Like, they were terrifying because they were like massive. They looked like the St. Andrew cross ones, but without the cross section for the web. And they just had different shades and different colors, but all really bright jewel colors. So it was kind of terrifying and kind of fun to be there at that time seeing those. I don't know if Korea still has those. I'll be interested to see when I go back whether they're still hanging from every light post and dangling in the trees. They never came into the house, so I was fine with that. But in general, that's the way my memory works. So I do work from pictures. When I wrote the section in the Bukchong Hanok Maul, I had visited there, but I had to refer to pictures again because I didn't want to get it wrong. And I did that for Sokchon Lake. Like, I went to Sokchon Hosu like many times. It's just beautiful there. And they had a giant rubber duck. So obviously I put the giant rubber duck in. I walked around the lake several times. I just really enjoyed being there. It was a beautiful place, and the trees were lovely. So I let Harrow spend some time in a cafe there. And yeah, and I think there's only two places that I didn't have to either refer back to my memory or to pictures for. And those were Sokcho, like the actual place, not Sokchon Lake, but Sokcho. which I had never been there. I wanted to go there. It's by the sea. It has a particular like little lighthouse thing with a giant life preserver on it. So I got to see those because YeoWoo and Peregrine go there in book 3, I believe. It's either book 3 or 4. It could be book 4 when they're taking a certain package to get out of the country safely. So I hadn't been there and I had to refer exclusively to pictures for that. And the second place, which I am still annoyed about it to this day, I didn't know that Seoul Botanic Gardens existed when I was there last time. I found out after I left. And I am so sad that I didn't get to go there before I actually did, before I put it in the books, because for a start, it was really hard to research because you can see the things, you can see the atmosphere, and I watched a lot of videos about it. And also my Korean tutor has been there. And so he gave me an idea of what the atmosphere is like and gave me some really good descriptions and some inside info on that was really, really helpful. But I was so sad I didn't get to go there before I put it in. So for those 2 places, I referred exclusively to photos, videos, and firsthand accounts of what was there and maps, basically. Like if you go online, Seoul Botanic Park has not just a map of the actual building and the surrounding park, but it's got the plans, the blueprints. That's the word. It has the blueprints that you can refer to. So I was able to do a lot through that. And yeah, long story short, I do use pictures, don't much use Pinterest, and mostly I refer to my memory. I Make Nonsense says, thank you so much for having this stream. Your books are delightful. Regards to certain characters, do I have a specific inspiration for Camellia? And she's such a delight. Thank you. I love Camellia. She was really fun to write, by the way. She was the most fun I've had writing in a while, probably since doing the Time Traveler's Best Friend series. As far as inspiration goes, for her, it's not so much inspiration as theme. So I gave her a lot of personal trauma to deal with that directly came from myself. So rather than having a specific inspiration for her, like a person or a character trait or something like that, I just basically built her up from my trauma, and I'm very sorry for her. But she turned out really well despite that, and I'm so glad that she's been well received, because I wasn't sure how well it was going to go there, mostly because I knew that if I had dual point of view with a male point of view and a female point of view, that people were naturally going to assume that those 2 point of view characters would be the romantic interest for each other. And I wanted to explore a very different kind of love for those 2 point of view characters to share, which of course is familial love. So I knew it was going to be a little bit dicey, and I'm really glad that people received her so well. I'm pretty sure from reading some of the reactions out and about, I'm pretty sure that a lot of the reason that Camellia was loved so quickly is purely because she poisoned Athelas, and I really love that of you guys. I love that you received that so well. I'm so glad you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed writing it. So thank you for being little weirdos along with me and loving that so much and accepting her so easily after that. Lydia says, your descriptions are vivid, but I know many are based off of real places, and I love seeing location pictures too. Yes, that's why I love to have my Instagram, because like I said, most of the time I visited the places that I put in the books. So most of the time, if you'll troll my Instagram, you'll see all those pictures from that time. And honestly, of course, it's been a year and a bit, might even be close to 2 years now since I've been in Korea. So those are a little bit further back now, but every now and then I reshare a photo I've shared, or I'm looking through my pictures just for nostalgia's sake, and share a new one that I didn't share at the time. So yeah, if any of you guys aren't already following my Instagram and you're interested in seeing the places that go into the worlds behind and between, that's a good place to go. Upcoming, there are, especially from the 16th of April, I'm going to be in Melbourne from the 16th through to about the 24th for my birthday. Not actually for my birthday, but I'll be there during my birthday. And I'm going to be exploring a specific area of South Yarra, because the next spin-off series is going to be set in Melbourne, South Yarra, and I've already done a little bit of legwork there, but I'll be doing more once it comes to actually getting there. And I've already started writing the books, so you'll see a lot more stuff pop up on Instagram of places that will appear in the books sooner or later. Pen Griffin asks, how many drafts do I typically write for my books? So the answer for that is very different from the start of when I was writing until now. So when I first started writing, let's see, the first book I published, apart from just short stuff, the first full novel I published was Wolfskin, I believe. And it was either Wolfskin or Mask. Oh, wow. Now I'm not sure. It might not have been Wolfskin. Wolfskin was the first one that was properly finished. And that one had 4, I think, distinct drafts, and Spindle had about the same. And like I said earlier about characterization, a lot of that was because I had to do a full draft of complete overhaul when it came to making the characters real characters instead of just flat two-dimensional characters. And so I had a lot of work to do, a full draft's worth of work to do for those. These days I tend to do a complete first draft, and then I will go over it again for big stuff that's out of place. And then I'll go over it another time for small stuff that's out of place and just tweaking things and making sure that there's no weird little inconsistencies, like a one-armed character hugging someone with 2 arms per se. And then I will fix those up. And then usually I'll do a final edit over the top of that for spelling errors and for just homonyms and that sort of thing that come out wrong, and I will get rid of those. And of course I have beta readers doing that for me as well. So I feel like that doesn't count as full drafts each time. So I would say at the most these days I do 2 drafts, but my drafting comes out fairly clean the first time around these days. And if you're a writer, you'll find that as you progress in your writing, as you progress in your career, you're going to do, if you're anything like me, and even me as a pantser, not doing much planning before I sit down and write, I get less and less trouble with drafting as I go on. So I think you're going to find that you too will do less drafts as you go along, and you'll find that you're doing things more streamlined, especially if you're swapping beta reads with other authors that you know, because beta reading their stuff is going to teach you about the things that people typically do wrong, and you'll start to notice those as you're writing and fixing them as you're writing. And you will also get useful feedback from those people, pulling out things that you never noticed about your writing before. And so you'll be more inclined to notice those things and avoid those things the first time around as you're actually writing. So it'll get better and easier for you as well, in my opinion. It definitely has for me. So these days, call it 2 drafts at the most, maybe a draft and a half, but I do several passes usually. Ellen says, that's one of the things that's always amazed me. It's how your characters and your plots don't repeat. Oh, yay. I'm glad it seems like that from a reader's perspective, because sometimes I worry a little bit, because I know, especially with like Kez from the Time Traveler's Best Friend series, and Pet from the City Between series have a lot of similarities. One is more feral than the other, of course, and one is older than the other, but there are enough similarities that I was just a little bit worried. But yeah, I'm interested to see how things go as I keep writing, because I feel like I'm not the same person, or I know I'm not the same person I was when I wrote Wolfskin or when I wrote Spindle. There are things I did in those books and earlier books that I would not do these days. And also the point of view from which I was writing has drastically changed. So I feel like, given that I'm very much a character-driven writer, and that I usually take things from my own life and themes and explorations from my own life and the lives of people around me, I feel like necessarily I have kind of an advantage, because I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so that means that it's helpful with not repeating characters, because I'm always learning new things, discovering new things, and becoming a very slightly different person. And that's very, very helpful. So like you guys already know, or a lot of you already know, that a lot of, especially the city between and the worlds behind, a lot of it is me processing stuff as I write. So I feel like my books help me in a lot of ways to process things in my own life, but in a lot of ways my life informs my books in a good way as well. So it's a really nice synergy for me. Oh, Lydia says they might have had me mixed up with someone else for the Pinterest board. That's fine. I also get people mixed up on the internet. I feel that. Pavlat family says, thank you for your books. I enjoy them so much. My sister told me about you, and now I share your books with my daughter and anyone who will listen. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Like I said before, I love that a lot of the time my books are a family affair, and the 2-3 generations are reading together or reading simultaneously. I love that so much. It makes me really happy to know that I've got such a broad range of readers. And also that people are just sharing the love. And I really appreciate the word of mouth. It's getting harder and harder, especially with Amazon at the moment, for authors to make a living, especially with the way that the algorithm works. Amazon has been steadily hiding my books from people and messing up my product pages. They've been doing a lot of damage to my career, and I'm not happy about it, but there's not too much I can do about it except set up other ways to sell my books. So word of mouth is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It helps so much, and I appreciate it every time. And on that note, I also wanted to make sure to say thank you so much to everyone who has not just read, but reviewed or rated No Man Left Behind. We're already up at over 130 ratings on Amazon, and it's about the same on Goodreads as well. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I usually keep an eye on those stats for a little while before I stop following a new book, and just it's been really heartening to see that. But going back to the whole thing about Amazon making life so much harder at the moment, you'll probably have seen already, either in the newsletter or on one of my social media posts, that I have been planning to use Kickstarter as a publication platform as of either the end of this month or the start of next month. The first book that I publish via Kickstarter will be the first Shattered Worlds book. So it'll just be the same as a normal Kickstarter, but it will be very pared down and simple. It will have the ebook, it will have a paperback, and probably a hardback. So it will have several different levels, and it will all be in Australian dollars. So if you don't live in Australia, you're going to get a better bargain than if you do live in Australia, because our dollar is not great against a lot of countries. It's going to be set up not worldwide, but for specific countries. But if you live outside those specific countries, feel free to message me through the platform and ask about whether I can get it to your country. The reason I'm doing it that way is that I literally cannot send books to some countries in a way that is affordable for the purchaser. So yeah, ask about that when it opens. I will be sending a link for that toward the end of the month. I can't depend on Amazon anymore. And it's not that I could depend on them before, but I could at least depend on them not to actively sabotage me as they are at the moment. And it's a mindless sabotage. It's not like somebody's there, deliberately trying to make my personal life harder. It's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the algorithm, and it's the nature of people paying for advertising on that platform. And it means that Amazon is literally hiding my books to promote other books that are paying for the exposure. So even if you search for my books and my author name, a lot of the time other people's books are going to come up first. So yeah, it's the word of mouth, the reviews, the sharing, it helps so much, and I really appreciate all of that. That I don't subscribe to the, once you've got 50 reviews, that's when Amazon starts to do this or that for your book. I don't think that's correct. I haven't found that that's in any way correct, but there is a definite algorithm on Amazon, and things go badly once it starts working against you. Like, obviously I'm still making a living. I'm still doing so much better than a lot of people who aren't. Like, I'm in a very privileged position. Australia at the moment is very difficult for some people to live in. Wages aren't great, but apart from just wages not being great, houses and living costs are so expensive. I'm in a really privileged position. I have a room in my parents' house. I'm making a living from my books. There's no need to think that I'm, in dire straits or anything. I am very privileged. It's just I feel like I'm being strangled a lot at the moment, and I want to do something about that. Tess asks, how much difficulty was there writing a redemption arc for such a twisty character? I was always questioning his motives throughout the series, but the arc felt very organic and finished so beautifully. Thank you so much. I put a huge amount of work into it, or it feels like to me a huge amount of work. And there were certain specific things I wanted to do. I wanted the reader to be aware that he had fully changed, but I wanted to make that change believable, long lasting, and also step by step. It couldn't just happen all at once. And I also wanted to leave the reader with a feeling of relief and happiness and catharsis at the end. I wanted this to be a healing series, not just for the characters, but for the readers, which is why I paced it out as I did, and which is why I tried to make sure that we could still see that Athelas was struggling with the inner thoughts and the manipulations that just naturally occur to him and that he'll never be free of. I wanted to show that it is something he'll always have to work at, but that he has changed so that he's aware of that and that he's committed to doing that. So there was a lot of difficulty with it, because it's hard to do that believably. And so as I was writing and as I was editing and as I was thinking about the books, I was always trying to think about how I could best present these ideas, how I could tweak little things and show life in the small things, that he had actually changed and that he was doing the work needed to get into a true mindset of change, to show that he had truly repented, to show that he was truly working toward restoration and willing to give up that restoration if that was the best thing for the person that he'd wronged. And for me, just being able to get to that point was the most important part. And so I had certain milestones that he needed to hit in each book, and certain milestones for YeoWoo that she had to hit in each book, certain ones for Harrow, even though his was more of a journey of healing than of repentance. And I wanted to fully acknowledge that for those who are abused, as well as for those who are the abusers, there's always going to be so much inner work that has to be done. It's not you've changed and you've repented and now that's it, you're fine. For those who still have to heal and who are abused, you still have to acknowledge that you have to work twice as hard as anyone else just to not hurt the people in your life, just to be on an even keel with everyone in your life. And for those who have both been abused and been the abuser, you're going to have to work twice as hard, because not only will you have to just acknowledge that some people are never going to forgive you and never going to see your repentance as true, but you still have to keep fighting against the worst impulses that are natural in you. And so in either case, it's not an easy journey, and it doesn't end in one moment. It's a continual climb up and out. And so it was really, really hard to do that. And I'm really happy that it came across well. I've been so relieved watching people having discussions on the Facebook page, in the thread, in Discord, in the Discord group, in the groups, just seeing people getting what I was trying to do, but not just getting that, but having really good discussions amongst yourself. I love that so much, that you guys are thoughtful and insightful readers, and not just that you pick stuff up, but that you carry those on and extrapolate out and have your own really good discussions about it. It makes me really happy. Sophia says, yes, I remember you telling us about the giant rubber duck while in Korea. Yes, I did a small live while I was there, during which I forgot how to turn the live off. So that was fun. Chris says, did you get interested in Korea because of your stories, or did you love it before and just weaved that into the stories? So I was already well interested in Korea and the language long before I was writing the books. Before the City Between series started, I had started learning Korean. And it's an entrancing language to learn. It is really difficult, but it's really rewarding, and it's just so fun. And the written language itself is beautifully mathematical and pleasing to me. It also makes my dyslexia do weird things. So like with English words, it'll swap them back to front, get them mixed up with each other. But with the characters, like the Hangul characters, it'll switch them upside down and from side to side, which has been really interesting, a really interesting thing to have happen. So I was already well into learning the language and starting to learn about the culture when I was writing the City Between series. And up until now, I've just been learning more about the language, more about the culture. I've got a few Korean friends that I talk to, one of whom has lived in Australia for a while. And it's always fun talking with that friend, because for some reason, of all the Korean people I know, the ones who have traveled to other countries are ones that I get along best with. And this particular friend is at least half Australian. So it's really fun talking with them. Even though they're a Korean person and they haven't been in Australia for a while, so their language is slipping back a bit. They try very hard. And so we have a talk every now and then and do a bit of language exchange as well as catching up. And it's just always fun to see the different attitude and the different mindset that comes with having traveled to a different country. So yeah, already was interested. But particularly the reason why I chose Seoul for Athelas's series is, while I was there in Seoul, just walking, not necessarily the only reason why, but one, I already loved Seoul. I wanted, it's perfect for youth in a context of worlds between and behind, because like Hobart, and to an even greater extent, there's such a mix of old and new and just startling fun things springing out from the city streets when you least expect it, and unexpected alleyways and restaurants and shops and things that happen. And so it's already prime for something like that. But I was walking along, because for a while I was living in Yeontrao, what they call Yeontrao Park, Yeonnam, and I would walk along the old train tracks there, and follow those all the way to like different areas for hours, just walking along that place. And as I was walking along there one time, as I came near to Kongdok, where I also lived for a little while during the pandemic, I was just walking along those tracks, and there was lots of decorative grasses there and just different paths that you could go on that you don't see until you're nearly on them. And I just looked down one of those paths and I saw Athelas there. I just saw his crossed legs and I thought he was a statue. And I was going to take his picture. And I missed out on taking it because just then the statue that was Athelas uncrossed his legs and started to get up, and I realized that it was not a statue. So yeah, I saw Athelas while I was in Seoul. So obviously Seoul was always going to be the place where I put Athelas and his story. Tess says, we love a woman who keeps Athelas on his toes. Yes, he desperately needs a woman who can keep him on his toes. No one else would have suited him. Obviously, he needs to do his own work with keeping himself on his own toes. But until he's able to do it, and sometimes when he's not up to it, it's good to have somebody who can push back against things that you do that are wrong. It's one of the things that I've tried to always draw out, both in the City Between series and in this series, that part of loving someone is making sure that you speak up when they're doing the wrong thing, even if that means that they won't love you anymore, even if that means they'll be angry at you. That's part of what loving someone is. And part of being loved is also accepting that from someone who loves you and trying to do better. So, yes. Grace says, I really love the poison scene because it never felt like a betrayal. And maybe it was supposed to, but for me, it felt like I can see you now. I want you to see me. Does that make sense? Yes, that was exactly what it was meant to be. It was not meant to be a betrayal of any sort. It was definitely I see you. Now you know that I see you, and this is me here. You're exactly right. That's exactly what it was meant to be. B. Foreman says, thank you for giving YeoWoo a family and someone who has her back without saddling her with a romance. You are very welcome. Those two things were something that were very important to me in YeoWoo's story, particularly. I needed the point at which I wanted her to be at the end of the series was aware of herself as a person again, surrounded by family again, and with the mental freedom to be able to start to discover who she is, what her life is, and to be able to start living again, basically coming out of that revenge mindset where that was all she thought about, to being able to see people and interact with people again, to be able to start healing in her own way. And it was also very important to me that she not have a romance. And I know some of you were disappointed at that. I know some of you feel like the characters you love weren't represented properly. But all I can say to that is that if you go back and read those characters, you'll see that those failings they display are failings they've always displayed. They've always been unsteady or self-righteous. And they still have their own growing to do, but this series wasn't about their growth. It was about the growth of Athelas and YeoWoo and Haru and Camellia to a certain extent as well. And it was also something where, with a very light brush, I wanted to indicate that not everybody who has people romantically interested in them needs to choose one of the people who is interested in them. I also wanted to be able to represent somebody who doesn't necessarily get romantic feelings or want to be touched. So in a certain way, I wanted to very lightly touch on an asexual person. I wanted to at least have some light representation there. I have a couple of friends who are asexual, and I wanted that to be there. I wanted to be able to have that representation to show that you don't have to want a physically romantic experience in your life, and you are still worthy of having love. You're still worthy of a family, and you still do, to a very great extent, need familial and platonic love, and that platonic love is not a downgrade from romantic love. So I wanted to be able to have that in some form, and YeoWoo was the way I chose to represent that. So yeah, I feel like sometimes we think that just because someone is interested in us, that we have to pick them. Just because two men are interested in you, that you have to pick between them. No, there is another choice. You don't have to pick either of them if you don't want them. I feel like that's always the choice. it has to be one or the other, but it's not. You don't have to. Just because I'm interested in someone because I like them, it doesn't mean they have to like me back. That's just part of life. You can love someone without being loved back. You can accept that someone loves you but not want to love them back. And I really wanted to do that, especially with YeoWoo. So I'm honestly really glad at the amount of people who've enjoyed that, because that was another thing that I was a little bit worried about, because I knew that there would be a certain subsect of people who would be upset that I hadn't given her a romantic arc. I feel like even if she does end up with a romantic partner, which it's possible, in the future it's possible, but I wanted to make it clear that she's not ready for even thinking about that sort of thing now. And when she does think about it, she might decide she does not want a romantic partner. That just might be where it comes down to. But she will always want, always need, and always deserve companionship. And I wanted to make it clear at the end of the book that she has that. Whether or not she decides she gets romantic companionship later along, she has that platonic love, and she always will. Kendra says, when I supported the Wolfskin Kickstarter, I had to call my bank because they flagged the use of my debit card in Australia. Oh, yes, I've had that happen with a couple of things. And I didn't have to fix it, but I ended up accidentally fixing it by getting a specific credit card for my business expenses that includes as one of its perks that I get free overseas charges. So I don't get charged for buying stuff overseas. And next time I'm in Korea, that card will be going with me so that I can make sure that I don't get charged these massive fees for just daring to exist in Korea and buying stuff in Korea, which I have always gotten. So I find that, excuse me, eating more of my chocolate. I find that with that, it's a little bit easier, but yeah, the credit card flagging is not great. I mean, I know it's for a reason. I know they don't want you to get scammed, but also kind of annoying. Understar says the line where Athelas tells Harrow that Harrow could very well have to work harder than anyone else in the room to stay with the people he loves without hurting him. Yeah. And yes, exactly. He was also talking about himself. Athelas talks through his own experience, especially with Harrow, because obviously Athelas experienced a huge amount of abuse, horrific abuse as a child. And don't forget that Fae, until they reach 10 years of age, their experience is that for every human year of development, they take 4 years to get that same amount of development. So his childhood was not just 10 years of all of that and then whatever happened in his teen years. That was 40 years there. It was a long time for him to be abused with that adolescent mind. So when he speaks to Harrow's, to his trauma, he's speaking to his own trauma as well. And I really love that you guys pick up on that. Lydia says, I don't know if this question has been asked and answered before, but will there ever be a series with Zero as the protagonist? Romance plotline, please. I can say straight away, no, there won't be. One of the things I really wanted to do with Zero and his character arc was to display and slightly dissect a very common mindset in the circles I move in, that is a very patriarchal mindset where the father does everything for the good of the family, or for the good of the child, for the good of the wife. And I wanted, it's also the reason why I gave him an incomplete arc in the City Between series, because most of the time when you get a movie series or a book series, that character is centralized, made the main character, and their concerns, because a lot of filmmakers are male, because a lot of writers are male, they write from that perspective. And even if they do a good job of showing the dangers of that mindset, they still center the male narrative. They center the patriarchal figure. They center his journey over everyone else's journey. And I very much wanted to decenter his journey. So you see at the end of the City Between series, his character arc is not complete, and it was done that way on purpose. He still has trouble accepting that Pet can make her own decisions and needs to make her own decisions to be a full person in her own right, and also to and also for Zero's own good as well. He can't always be in control of her. That's not his place in life. And once she's grown into an adult, he can advise and he can give his advice, but he can't control her. He shouldn't be controlling her for her good and for his good. And in the Worlds Behind series, I showed that he had grown, or at least I hope I showed that he has grown further and he's still growing. But in my experience, those kind of men, as much as they grow, as much as they learn, they are still always hurting the people in their life, because their arc is a continuing arc. It's real life. It's messy. And as much as they try and as much as they do genuinely love the people in their lives, because of that mindset they've either grown up with or that is natural in them, they always have to consciously fight back against that. And they're always unconsciously hurting the people in their lives. And I don't, as much as it's a good thing for those people to grow and have those stories out there, I'm not willing to center that experience and that growth, because I feel like it's centered so much in so many stories, and that the male experience is so much pandered to and centered that it already has its moment in the sun. I'm not here to give it more exposure. If you want to see that storyline, it's a perfectly good storyline to see. It's perfectly legitimate, but it's not one that I'm personally going to do. Zero will have to continue his journey without my oversight. He will appear in short stories again, and I've done some short stories with him that appear in the Between Friends collection of stories, but I won't ever do a series about him. As much as I want to see him and Palomina together, as much as I will probably do a short story with both of them, I won't ever do a full series about them. I know he's very popular in a lot of places, and I love him. But yeah, that's not a thing that's going to happen. I Make Nonsense says, I was so happy that YeoWoo was represented the way I showed her. I felt incredibly represented by her situation and her decision not to choose either of them. I'm so glad. I'm hoping that she touches and reaches other people without doing any damage of the kind that I could do by being ignorant with how I represented her. So yeah, that's really lovely to hear. Thank you. And I'm so glad. Lydia says, platonic love is not a downgrade from romantic love. Yes, yes, yes. Say it for the people in the back. Thank you. Not everything is about the sex or the romance. Yes, exactly. I'm not here to downgrade sex or romance. Both of those are beautiful and good things in their own right, and they're lovely to have. But yeah, platonic love is not a downgrade. I've learned so much from the platonic love of friends, and in learning to platonically love my friends, that has stood me in very good stead. And when I eventually, hopefully, start dating and have a partner again, it's going to be stuff that will help me be a better partner because I've had it. So I feel like in some ways it's the more important love to have. So yes. Lydia says, read the Zero-centered series. Thanks so much for the answer. Totally understand not wanting to write a certain arc or the personal perspective of a certain character. I figured that you guys would be pretty understanding of it. And I want to say all that without saying that I hate Zero, because I don't hate him. I love him as a character. He's been really great to write and I enjoyed it. It was, yeah, just more of a personal decision that way to make sure I was writing the stories I wanted to write. And with all that said, like I said earlier, I still am very much interested in writing a short story again about him and Palomina. Lydia asks, are you ready to reveal who will be the protagonist of a series set behind Between? The next series? Yes. So you guys will have, if you're subscribed to my newsletter, excuse me, I'm just crossing my legs. I'm sitting here like a little goblin with my legs crossed. You can't see it because all you can see is this very neat and tidy exterior from here up. But I've got my legs crossed here. I'm wearing my little cargo pants and I have my weird socks on. So you can't see that. But every time you see me just move around a bit, I'm just, changing my position and crossing or uncrossing my legs like the feral goblin I actually am. So yes, if you're subscribed to my newsletter, if you've been in the the denizens of the weird worlds of WR Gingell, either on Facebook group or the Discord group, you will have gotten some excerpts of the next series. And you will also have seen probably the blurb for that series for the first book. The main character, there's only going to be one main character in terms of point of view, that is, and that is Viv. And you have met Viv if you've read the Between Friends collection of stories. So if you've read that, there's one, is it Talking Shop or it's one with tentacles anyway. So it's in there and it features Viv. And the other main characters in that will be Luca, Jasper, and you'll see some characters from the Worlds Behind series make a entrance again. And you will also see just every now and then some from the City Between series as they make cameo appearances. I'm really looking forward to this series because it's going to be very creepy. There will still be the same fight scenes. Well, there will still be some fight scenes, but the creep factor will be up, and it will be more creep than gore, I feel like, for this series. So yeah, be prepared for that. And in the newsletter, I did like a really big excerpt. So make sure you're signed up for my newsletter if you aren't already, because usually when I start a series, that's where I post the really big excerpts. But I believe I put it in the Discord group as well. And it was actually, I'll show you guys just a sneak peek. Nobody else has seen this apart from a couple of friends of my acquaintance. But I got the cover concept back, or at least the character concept I'll see if I can find it again. There we go. For the characters. And it's not completed yet. They need to make some tweaks to make it look more in perspective. But so far, this is the character concept. So I hope that's very enjoyable for you guys to have seen, because nobody else is going to see that until the cover comes out. This is just for you guys now. So yeah, Viv, Luca, Jasper, they're coming. I've already started writing the book. I should be well over halfway through that book by the end of this month. And then, the Kickstarter will start at the end of this month or the start of next. And then the books will be delivered in July and August, or June and July, depending on how quickly I get things together. And then it will go live on Amazon September or October. So you'll get first pick at it, and it won't be on Amazon until much later because, I just need a change up of how I publish. And if this goes well, if the Kickstarter goes well, then I will continue doing that for all the books in this series. I will try to add like a special bonus for people, maybe a short story or something like that, for the people who come through the Kickstarter, as opposed to buying on Amazon afterward, and see how we go with that. I do have another question here that I want to get to before I forget about it, from Courtney on Facebook. She said, I won't be able to be at the live tonight, but wanted to ask, what was the most difficult part about writing the first spin-off? And was there a major change you made in the books that you were not expecting when you started? So I think I sort of already answered that with a previous question about how difficult was it to write Athelas's progression and such a manipulative character coming into true repentance. And for me, that was the most difficult part, making sure that was believable, making sure that it felt right, and sat right and was taken right. And that was genuinely difficult, and I worked really hard on it. So probably that. There were no major changes I made in the book. I think the biggest thing that I started to do differently was to really draw. I had already planned on doing it, but I did it in a bigger way than I had planned on when I drew Peregrine out further as a romantic interest. I was always planning on doing that, but I did more with him than I'd been planning to do, and I'm really glad I did. I feel like that came out really well and had a good effect on it. So I'm very, very happy with that. Lydia asks, any hints about what the next series will be about? Yes. So basically the theme of the entire series is fear, which goes into why it's going to be so incredibly creepy, but it's also going to feature a lot of my personal nightmares, I guess, which will up the creep factor. But I want to explore, with this series, I very much want to explore fear and how it makes us behave, and the way it makes us view the world, and how it can ruin lives. And yeah, there's a lot I want to explore about that particular subject. I've been thinking about it for a while, and it's a big subject, and it speaks to a lot of the way people view the world. Are a lot of the way you observe the world and interact with the world is based on what you fear about the world. The people you fear, the things you fear, direct how you will think about those things, how you will react to those things. And yeah, I want to explore that. I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I have a lot of things I want to do with it. So basically, fear. That's why it's going to be creepy. Grace says, love cargo pants so much. The more pockets, the better. Yes, we need the pockets. When I was a kid, I used to walk around with like bulging pockets full of just stuff. I had to like unload every night when I would go to bed, because I would just have so much stuff in my pockets. So I am very much pro pocket. Pen Griffin says, oh, fun. Love cameo appearances by other characters. Yes. I love a good cameo appearance. Actually, some of you noticed a certain cameo appearance that I actually didn't know if anyone would notice in the final book. But one of you or two, a couple of you on Discord noticed a certain cameo appearance. So that was really fun to talk about for a while. I Make Nonsense says, how do I join the Discord group? So there should be a link on my Facebook page. I will just actually make another link at the moment as we're thinking about it. Let's see, where do I do that? Oh, invite. There we go. That's the one I want. Copy link. I'm just going now to the Facebook page, and I'm dropping the Discord link there. So if you want to join the Discord and nobody has already, someone might have already shared that, but this is me now going to share that, and that'll be sitting on the Facebook page for you once it finishes uploading on my phone. Oh, there we go. So that should be ready for you whenever you're ready for it. I usually try and make it a link that doesn't expire, but sometimes I forget, so I have no idea if it's an expiring link or not. Just get to it today and you'll be fine. Lydia says, City Between series was about Pet finding out the truth about her past, who she was, and the political changes that happened in Behind. And Worlds Behind was all about Athelas' redemption arc, a bit about the behind kind politics in Korea. Yeah, although a big part of Pets, the City Between, was about found family and standing up to the people you love when they do wrong things. Also just healing through having family. So I feel like they're not terribly different in that way. They both have a personal aspect to them, but there was a lot more politics, I feel like, in the City Between series than in the Worlds Behind. Absolutely. There will be slightly more politics again in the Shattered World series with Viv and Luca. So that will be more apparent again. So Lydia's asking about what the new Viv series will be about in the big picture. Already answered that one with fear, so I won't go back into that again. Ellen asks, how many books am I planning for Viv? So for Viv, it's either 5 or 6. Originally, I was just going to go with 5, but I've got the feeling I might need 6 because one of the arcs that I've got planned in particular, I might struggle to finish it in 5 books as opposed to 6. So I'm going to try and do that. I will see how that goes. But yeah, it'll be between the two. It won't be less than 5. It probably won't be more than 6. It'll be either 5 or 6. Usually, I don't know how, like my brain seems to expand the words to fit what I've predetermined to fit in them. It seems to work that way more than just me trying to fit stuff in. So I'm pretty sure that it'll fit within what I've decided for. B Foreman says that arc was very successful. Your hard work really paid off. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's always lovely when it works out for everyone reading as well as me as a writer. Right. Well, I can do some more questions, or we can have some more discussion for a little while. I'll be here for another 15 minutes, I reckon, and then I'm going to have to go and have a rest, I think. For some reason, the brain that has decided that it's not going to let me sleep has also been making me fight off migraines several times a week lately, and I want to make sure I prevent that today. Oh, if you guys are wanting some recommendations for TV series, so you guys know I'm learning Korean. So one of the good things, or one of the best ways to be studying and getting listening practice in Korean is watching a Korean show with the subtitles turned off. So at the moment, I'm doing that with a series called Soundtrack that's on Disney Plus. It's got the boy with the ears, Park Hyung-sik and Han So-hee. And so far, I've just seen the first episode. I only watch one episode at a time because it's brain intensive, trying to understand everything. I put the Korean subtitles up for the things I miss hearing, and that really, really helps. So I've only seen the first episode so far, and it's a friends to lovers storyline, which was originally my favorite kind of romance. I still really, really like it. So I'm very much enjoying it. And it's been really fun to see how they set up the characters with their distinct personalities and their distinct challenges that are going to make this kind of friends to lovers be a really difficult and a really fraught transition. But they're setting it up so that it's reasonable and so that I can actually appreciate why these two characters are having trouble coming together romantically. I feel like a lot of times the friends to lovers is very cheaply done and is not particularly well done, which is why I've moved away from it a bit. But this one is justifying the trope fully, and it's giving the two characters distinct personalities and making it clear that this is why we're having such trouble with this, because this personality will act in this way, this personality will act in that way. And yeah, it's beautifully written so far. And there's only 4 episodes, or maybe 6. It's either 4 or 6 episodes, and I really appreciate that. I'm very annoyed about having to have really long dramas at the moment. I'm also very much enjoying Marriage Impossible at the moment. It does a few things that I'm not loving, but one of the things it's doing that I appreciate so much, in Western media as well, but particularly in Korean media, most of the time, even if the storyline's about a woman, the male gets the most screen time. He gets the most understanding, and everything is catered to his wishes. They also very rarely apologize. I can count on the fingers of one hand the amount of times I've seen a K-drama where a male lead has apologized for his truly abhorrent behavior, or even for anything at all. They just do not make males apologize on screen. They also usually don't do that in Western media. It's not just Korean media. This is a widespread thing that I've noticed. No matter how horrible the male character is, they will not have him apologize to the female character. It just very rarely happens. But in this series, they've had him apologize twice. legitimate, proper apologies for stuff he did that was wrong. And it's so beautiful to see, like legitimately so beautiful. They're still doing the thing of where they center his experience. For instance, he calls his brother selfish for not doing what he wants his brother to do, while at the same time, everything has to be about him. So there's still that element there, but it's so much mitigated and ameliorated by the fact that they have him apologize when he does stuff wrong. I cannot say how extremely attractive it is for a man to be able to apologize when he does something wrong. I so rarely get to see it, almost never get to see it in movies and in film. And I love it. We need to normalize males apologizing when they do things wrong. I feel like there's a lot of blokes who talk about how women never take accountability and we have life set on easy in the manosphere and in the more toxic areas of male speech. I hear a lot of that. But in my experience, and especially on the screen, it is very much the reverse. Men are almost never called to accountability. They almost never apologize. And honestly, one of the most attractive things a man can do is sincerely and openly apologize, in my opinion. So seeing it in this drama, despite the fact that the male lead is a very beautiful boy that I'm not usually attracted to, I find him very attractive because he's capable of apologizing. So yeah, check that out. I also love the female lead. She has this little sad, desolate face, and I love it so much. She's got the most fun face, and their dynamic together is just delicious. I love it a lot. So that one's definitely worth doing. And what else am I watching? I'm watching a Chinese one at the moment, but I don't want to recommend it just yet because in my experience, Chinese dramas, I've only watched one that has not been horribly male-centered and done horrible things to the female lead and just made her bear it and apologize to the male lead. So I'm not going to recommend it yet, but if it turns out to be good all the way through, then I will recommend it. In the meantime, though, if you have never seen the short Chinese drama, the absolutely bonkers short drama that is Chinese called Night of Love with You, which sounds very sketchy, but it's not. Watch it. Do yourself a favor and watch it. It is hilarious, and it subverts so many things that I see in Chinese dramas as a mainstay. And I feel like the series I'm watching at the moment is doing a lot of subverting, but it also falls back a lot on just people's base expectations and what they're used to. So yeah, those are my recommendations. And I will have to go very, very shortly. So I'm going to just answer a few more questions and then I will start closing things up. Moon Kent says, do you plan to put the new series in audiobook form at some point? I do. I've recently had some trust issues with my audiobook publisher that are not fully resolved yet. So I will be doing some renegotiating with them if I choose to go with them again, just because I want to be sure that I'm not going to face an issue of this magnitude again. A lot of us with audiobooks have been very worried for the last couple of months due to this issue, and I won't get into it because I know that they're trying to fix things, but I'm very unhappy with the lack of communication and the disrespect toward authors at the moment. So I'm going to wait and see how they behave, and I'm also going to renegotiate if I choose to go with them again. But in the meantime, they will definitely get put into audiobook, but as to whether I stay with my current publisher for that audiobook or not, I have yet to decide. I want to see some change going forward. And if I'm not satisfied with that change, then I will be retweaking a few things when it comes to my audiobook publishing. Lydia says, have to go. Lovely chatting. Thank you for doing the live stream. Thank you for being here. It's been lovely to see everyone here. And it's been, really nice to have the messages and the questions and getting into the nitty gritty of some of those things in the series and seeing your guys' takes on it. Our Tess says, I love that one and it's so funny. Yes. Tree Lover's daughter, any plans to eventually get back to Lady of Pink? Yes, I'm hoping I'm hoping in the next year or two to get back to that. I have literally several single projects that I want to get back to that are standalones that I desperately, desperately want to do. But I also desperately want to do these series. I feel like once I get to the end of the Shattered Worlds series, that I'm going to go on an odyssey of just standalones. And technically speaking, even though Lady of Ink is technically in a series, it stands alone. So just like the other ones stand alone. So that's included in those that I do. And I'm hopefully going to do a whole year, which may be 2025 through to 26, where I do just single books. So I've got Lady of Ink, Of His Bones, Soul of Lead, and what's the other one called? And one more that I really want to do. So I'm hoping to do all of those. I'm already still writing Soul of Lead at the moment, and I will continue to write that in the background. But I do want to get this Shattered World series done first. So I would guess that from 2025 through to 2026, that's when I will do a whole bunch of those that I've been wanting to do for ages. And I'm really looking forward to it. Kendra says, not a question, but I like that Camellia is the name of the tea plant, Athelas falling in love with tea. Yes, I did that very deliberately. I was surprised at how long it took for somebody to mention that they'd noticed that. I think I was writing the third book by the time someone said, so I noticed that you gave Athelas a love interest with a name that is tea, basically. And yes, I did. Thank you for noticing. I enjoyed that. Pen Griffin says, thanks for hosting this live. Love the books and looking forward to the next series. Chris says, so great getting to know you a little bit better. And thank you very much. It's been lovely to get to answer the questions and see your guys' thoughts. Like I said, it's always fun for me when I do these lives. I've just not had the bandwidth to do them for quite a while now. I will try and do them a little bit more often. I feel like it would be nice because I know there's a lot of authors among you, either already established authors or authors who are coming up and starting to publish or just had started to publish. And I feel like some discussions on self-publishing would be really fun to have about now or this year. So I will try and do some more lives now that things are settling down a little bit more. But in the meantime, I'm off to Melbourne in a week and a half. I'll spend my birthday there and take myself out to dinner to a very nice restaurant that I've been researching. And basically there will be a lot of photos on Instagram, and hopefully you will get to see those so that you know a little bit of what to expect when Viv and co come to your e-readers. So I'm going to close up now and head off to have yet another cup of tea and then sit down and rest and probably watch something. Thank you all so much for coming. It's been really lovely to have you here. Been lovely to have a constant stream of questions to be able to answer. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and I will see you out and about on the internet as usual, in all the usual places. And also I'm on Threads now as well. So if you're on Threads, come find me. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night if you're in America, and everywhere else, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.